A man sitting inside his luxury villa in Bangkok was working on his laptop when suddenly he heard the loud sound of an accident outside. Completely unaware that his lavish life was about to come to an end within minutes. He left his laptop open and ran outside. Reportedly, a girl had made a call to the police. The police had been waiting for this day for many years. It was the morning of July 5th, 2017, in Bangkok. And the person we are talking about was no ordinary man. He was a multimillionaire living a king-like life. He had kept his identity hidden for years, but one small mistake washed away everything: properties, money, wealth, cars, and even his life. But what was that small mistake? And how did the police forces of 7 countries, along with Europol, manage to track down the world's most wanted dark web king? Welcome back to another video. This story dates back to 2010, when the dark web was slowly emerging. The dark web is the other side of the internet, where all kinds of illegal activities take place. From drugs and weapons to contract killings, this is where all the black business happens. The things that happen here are so outrageous that it's hard for us to even believe. There's a particular reason why all this happens on the dark web. Criminals all over the world want to hide their identity so that they can't be caught by police or law enforcement agencies. And the dark web seemed to be the ultimate solution for this. Just as we use Google for regular browsing, before 2010 there wasn't much craze for the dark web. But after the arrival of cryptocurrencies, the problem of transferring payments for illegal trades was also resolved, since tracking cryptocurrencies is nearly impossible for authorities. Now, all the issues of illegal trades on the dark web were resolved. Contractors' identities were safe, and transferring payments had also become secure. All that was needed now was a good and reputed platform, or a dark website. The first such dark website was called Silk Road, which became very successful in the dark world of the internet. It was launched in February 2011, and soon more than 100,000 customers started using it. But after 2.5 years, the owner of Silk Road was caught, and the site was shut down. Since there was high demand for such a business, many new dark websites were launched within days, including Silk Road 2.0 and Evolution. On these websites, customers would pay in Bitcoin, and after purchasing, the platform would take a commission and pass on the payment to the seller. Since all of this was black business, the website operators often disappeared with all the money. This was called an exit scam. No one knew them, and tracing them via the dark web was impossible. So in case of exit scams, drug dealers would simply shift to other platforms. In the early years of the dark web, there were many such frauds. Exit scams, operators being caught, and hacking were common. There was a need for a reputed and trusted platform. That's when, in 2014, a dark website named AlphaBay was launched. No one knew the name or location of the person who launched it. He identified himself as Alpha02. Later, the platform also started the sale and purchase of other products like money laundering and drugs. However, certain things like child abuse and stolen Russian bank account details were not allowed on AlphaBay. Why was this? Perhaps Alpha02 didn't want to mess with Russian law enforcement, or maybe he wanted to show US authorities that he was operating from Russia. Of course, a place where the US has no hold. In its first year, AlphaBay began establishing itself on the dark web. Within a year, it had 200,000 customers and over 40,000 sellers comfortably doing their black business. By 2017, more than 300,000 items were listed on AlphaBay, and daily sales were around millions of dollars. Alpha02, whom no one knew, started earning millions monthly through these sales, and soon became the lone king of the dark web. AlphaBay had become the biggest dark web marketplace that had earned the trust of both dealers and customers. Meanwhile, law enforcement agencies worldwide were trying to uncover the real identity of Alpha-02, but had failed so far. American investigators wanted to find the server location of AlphaBay so that a raid could be conducted at the data center and the platform could be shut down, possibly leading them to Alpha-02. Normally, finding a website's server location isn't that hard, but dark websites can only be accessed via the Tor browser, which hides the real location behind layers of random servers across the globe. That's why it was impossible for the Americans to reach AlphaBay. As a workaround, they started acting like regular users and buying drugs on AlphaBay, hoping that a drug dealer might make a mistake and lead them somewhere. But this would only catch the dealers, while the authorities were looking for AlphaBay's mastermind, Alpha-02, who was being very cautious and knew all the survival tactics of this dark world. He hadn't made even a single mistake in years. But finally, in 2017, authorities got a clue to reach Alpha-02. A DEA officer named Robert Miller was sitting in front of his computer searching for Alpha-02 when he suddenly received an email. This email contained some information about Alpha-02, and the sender was an unknown individual. Now, as everyone knows, whenever you register on a website, a welcome email is sent. A similar welcome email had also been sent to this person when AlphaBay had just launched in 2014. The email address from which this email came was saved by the informant, even though the mistake was fixed later. That email address was shared with Robert Miller via email. Who was the sender? Was it a competitor of AlphaBay, a customer, or a drug dealer? It didn't matter, because now the DEA had the first and most crucial piece of information about Alpha-02, a big breakthrough. Using this email address, many social media signups were found. On a French platform called Sky.com, an account had been created under the name Alex using this same email. Investigators also found photos from 2008 and 2009 that were likely of Alpha-02. A dating profile linked to the same email mentioned his hometown as Laval, a city in Canada. According to that 2008 profile, he was 17 at the time, and the 90 in the email address was probably his birth year. He had also used the same email in 2008 to post on a French tech forum where his username was Alpha-02, and at the end of the post, his real name was mentioned, Alexandre Cazes. Authorities had found Alpha-02's real name. But where was he? On LinkedIn, Alexandre had listed himself as a software designer. The biggest clue about his current location, and a way to monitor him, was his villa, where he lived with his Thai wife. His second mansion worth $3 million was outside Bangkok, where he indulged in luxuries. He had a holiday home in Phuket and was about to buy a villa in Cyprus. Agents started monitoring all his activities. He roamed around Bangkok in luxury, completely unaware that Thai, American, and Canadian agents were following him. In daily life, the king of the dark web lived like a normal person. He'd wake up early and stay home most of the day. Authorities began planning his arrest. The challenge was that if they arrested him without proof, it wouldn't be easy to prove in court that he was the owner of AlphaBay. So the investigators wanted to catch him red-handed while he was working on his laptop. Although AlphaBay was the biggest marketplace on the dark web, it had a competitor, Hansa, a dark website popular in Europe that was troubling European authorities. While Americans were planning to arrest Alexandre, European investigators achieved success. They found the server location of Hansa Market. They didn't want to shut down Hansa's servers, because then it could easily be restarted elsewhere. Instead, they secretly copied the data and, after reading admin chats, found that the owner of Hansa Market lived in Germany. Working with German police, they began tracking him. At the same time, the FBI informed the European authorities that they were about to arrest Alpha-02 and shut down AlphaBay. Authorities from 7 countries, America, Europe, and Germany, decided to combine their efforts and named the mission Operation Bayonet. According to the plan, European authorities told the FBI not to arrest Alpha-02 until they had full control of Hansa Market. This was a smart move because, typically on the dark web, when one site shuts down, dealers and customers just shift to another. Since Hansa was the second biggest dark site, once AlphaBay was closed, all dealers would move to Hansa, which was already under European control. This would allow them to catch thousands of new dealers. Operation Bayonet was a kind of honey trap. Meanwhile, Alexandre Cazes had no idea what was happening. He continued living his luxurious life in Bangkok. On June 20th, 2017, the first phase of the mission was completed. European authorities raided Hansa's data center in the Netherlands and simultaneously arrested its owner in Germany. But this news was not made public. Hansa Market was now under European control, and no one on the dark web knew. In Bangkok, preparations to arrest Alexandre Cazes began. The DEA, FBI, and Thai authorities wanted to catch him red-handed, with his laptop and mobile unlocked. On the morning of July 5, 2017, they succeeded. He was arrested, and after checking his laptop, all his passwords were copied. His cars, properties, and millions in cryptocurrency were seized. But Alexandre would never appear in court. Within a week of his arrest, he hanged himself with a bedsheet in custody and ended his life. Just one small mistake cost the dark web king everything: his empire, his fortune, and even his life. Meanwhile, just as expected, after AlphaBay was shut down, all the dealers and customers shifted to Hansa Market, which was already in the control of European authorities. Thousands of new dealers were caught, and a week later, Hansa Market was also shut down permanently. On the same day, the U.S. Department of Justice held an official press conference to announce this major operation and shared the news of shutting down 2 major dark web platforms. We hope you liked and shared this video. Thank you so much for your loving comments. See you in the next amazing video.